Warning: Josh is not an expert in any of the things he talks about. He simply uses his head and does a lot of research so you, the audience, don't have to. Keep in mind, he doesn't know everything, so take the things he says with a grain of salt. What is going on, everyone? This is Josh Said What, the podcast that'll change the world. Today, I have a very, very special guest. He's the one and only Amun Cosme.
Hey, what's up? What up, brother? You doing all right?
Doing pretty good myself.
Dude, I'm alive, so I'm doing great.
Hey, I feel that.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, the books that you got me, I just finished them.
You just finished it? So you finished all three?
Yeah.
Dude, that's my favorite author.
Yeah, Steven Pressfield.
Yes. And I was wondering how long it would take you before you found the gold dollar bill, the $100 bill that I put in there. But the first one I started with was The War of Art. And then once I read that, I said, I have to get the next two. Mm-hmm. And it just, if you're an artist or a creative of any kind of sort, then you don't have to get those books. You need those books in your life. And
yeah. Those are some great books. He's a great author, by the way. So, he wrote 300. Like, come on.
Yeah.
That's staple. What was crazy, too, because I remember I was telling you about it, is that a lot of the stuff that he writes about in there is similar to all the other stuff that I read. Like, one book that I have, it's called The Secret History of the World. It literally talks about these ancient societies from, 14,000 BC. Same exact parallels with the philosophy of thinking.
Yeah, it's funny. So I read a lot of like Ryan Holiday's books. His study Stoicism, and when you get like deep into Stoicism, you realize that no matter how much we evolve as like a human race, there are certain parallels that just run through the test of time. It's like these same thought processes, these same instincts and fears and the way we live our lives are all based around 3 or 4 principles. Mm-hmm. It's like the principles of fear, principles of courage, principles of survival. And it's like we have the way we live life, and no matter how high the skyscrapers get or how many planets you want to go out there and see, at the end of the day, we all have a timestamp on life and death. Mm-hmm. And so humans are always like gonna be navigated by a couple things. Reproducing, which is survival, like having your name live on, the fear of dying, and just ways to live your life where through experience, not just knowing. And like that's, if you look at like humankind, like look at where we came from out of the cave to where we are now. I made a joke I saw on a meme to my friend. We were talking, and I was like, can you imagine, like I saw this meme that like we start off as cavemen with rocks, and we turn rocks into Wi-Fi. And I was like, and I was just dying laughing. And I was like, how curious do you got to be to eventually find a way to turn rocks into wireless internet? Like, I don't even know how that works. That's beyond my field of like expertise or intelligence. But it shows you like, even as advanced as we get, we still operate on the same things. Fear, survival, pleasure, pain. That seems to be the driving force, no matter how advanced the external society gets. Our internal like dialogue and stuff is always gonna be like navigated by those things.
Yeah,
so that's what I love about Stoicism. It's timeless because it's principle based, not like based on whatever the societies are.
Yeah,
like where we're at as far as like technology and advancement. It's principle based.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing with you pointing that out, because like I read older books, and even though our technology is different, we still have the same concept of thinking. Like the King James Bible literally references the Matrix a couple times. I was reading a book that was about, what was it? Ancient Britain. Like I literally just finished it. They had pimps, like literally still 500-600 years old. Are you kidding, bro? Like the book literally referenced pimps.
What was a 500-year-old pimp look like? He's got a robe. This shit's got like a tail on it. What all thou money? Like bro, with that pose. But if you think about it, that's why I think storytelling is the greatest gift in the world. Because think of this. As advanced as our society is, as advanced as science and technology is, and the ability to prove things, the things that still run the world are religious texts.
Yep.
You said the King James Bible, the Quran, the Torah, whatever it is, like from whatever region of the world, whatever your ancient text based off of your religion or your beliefs, those things were written 6, 7, 8,000 years ago. And they stand the test of time because of the principles. Mm-hmm. Even though the words might change, our language might change and evolve. And as we evolve, it's, as my friends would say, it's the principalities of the situation. It's the principles. It's like, hey man, somebody stole $1 or $100. I don't care. Stealing is stealing. Don't do it. Right?
Exactly.
Like, hey, like, jealousy is not cool regardless of if you're jealous of the castle or the shoes. It's like, it doesn't matter what time frame you're in. The principles of what the texts stand the test of time. So it doesn't matter how advanced we are or unadvanced we are. We know what's right and we know what's wrong, morally, because you can feel it.
Yeah,
that's based off principle. It's like we all know what fear is, right? We all know that feeling, that nervousness, and anxiety. And this is like, hey man, these are things that are showing you better ways to live your life, regardless of what the external factor is. Mm-hmm. And I think what's important about that is, it really shows you that it doesn't matter what's around you. It's really about what's inside. Yeah. Because that's how you navigate. That's how you know what's really right for you.
Yeah.
That's why I love philosophy. And like I said, I'm not religious. Like, I don't follow a particular religion, but I believe in God. And I'm just like, if being a Christian for you makes you a better person, good for you. If being a Muslim for you makes you a better person, good for you. If being Hindu makes you a better person, good for you. Being Buddhist makes you a better person. As long as you're not like being immoral and ethical and like, harming nobody or, in the process, then who am I to tell you? Maybe it's more than one way to heaven. If you believe in that, if you believe in heaven or hell or whatever your belief is, it's like, we're all individuals, and who am I to say that my way is the way for you?
Yeah.
So that's like where I fell off of religion as a young man, as a boy, was like, don't tell me I'm gonna go to a bad place if I don't do what you do, because I didn't grow up like you grow up. I didn't study the things you study, and who are you to tell me the way I'm living my life is wrong when you're not in my shoes?
Yeah.
Maybe we got different paths to get to the top of the mountain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You got a helicopter, motherfucker. I had to truck through the jungle and walk up here barefoot. Like,
exactly.
I'm not going to have the same experiences you had. So were you to tell me that, maybe I found God or whoever, on my journey through this hell, and maybe you found it on your way. So like, that's why I kind of believe in God, not just there's one particular road to get there.
Yeah.
As long as you're not being immoral or unethical, then we're cool.
Exactly. And like, there's this old term, I always forget her name, but she's an old Greek philosopher, and she coined this term anarchic truth, which means that there's a potentially infinite number of truths for anything.
Yeah.
So like with fighting and training, while one workout may work for one person, it doesn't work out for the other, and vice versa.
Yeah.
And it's like with like the whole nature of good and evil, like you can't really understand what is good without experiencing what is evil. And that's what stoicism too.
Exactly. And I had what I thought was like a mini breakthrough in my life when I realized things aren't this or that; they just are. Mm-hmm. And what I mean is like, you're not good or bad; you just are, and you have the capability of being both, depending on the perspective. Mm-hmm. Oh, that guy's a thief. Well, he stole that food to feed his family.
Yeah.
So I know it's basically justified, right? It's like, oh my God, there's a murderer, but he killed a psychopath who killed 30 other people, so he stopped that guy from killing more people. It's justified. It's like nobody wants to. And then the justification becomes like a slippery slope. Well, what can you justify? And then it's like, religious people say, well, then you're playing God and this and that. It's like, all right, we start falling down like this. We go down the rabbit hole. But that shows you how intricate like we are. And that's why I said I really had like a breakthrough in my life. And I tell people I judge, but I do my best not to be judgmental. You can, it's almost impossible to not judge someone. You see them, the first thing you see, might get crucified for this. I don't give a fuck. It's like, you know, you see race and gender, or, you know, whatever they want to call it nowadays. But like, that's what you see. I'm saying, oh, okay. So it's hard to not judge when everything is based off your perception. This is what I see. So this is the first information that I have. And then you hear somebody talk and you're like, whoa, hold on. Well, where are they from? And they do this. And then it's like, okay. Then you start to learn. So you have like a framework that you initially put someone in. And then depending on what happens with that interaction, frames either go down or go up.
Exactly.
And then, so it's like, I'm not judgmental because I'm like, bro, I grew up poor. I lived in New York very young. Then we moved to Philly, then moved from Philly to Georgia. And then I went from Georgia. I lived in California for a year for school, and then I moved back. I fight, so I've met people international from like the worst places and to the best places, and fought in 8 different states. And I've been to Thailand now, and I'm experiencing so much, and I'm getting different perspectives of the world. And the more perspectives you have, it allows you to understand, like you said, infinite number of truths.
Yeah.
It allows you to understand other people's truths, because if you wholeheartedly believe something is true and I wholeheartedly believe something true, who's wrong?
Yeah, see that's the
your truth, right?
The nuance of things is so hard to decipher, because like, especially nowadays with there being so much information that's clouding everything, it's so hard for us to
Information
decipher all
overload.
that.
It's information overload. It's like, now that you know so much, you do so little.
Yep.
We go through that in fighting. I remember a particular fight camp. My coach told me I was doing this thing where I was like pausing in certain areas, and I wasn't like pulling the trigger. And he was like, "Yo, still this saying sticks with me to the end of the day." It was like, the highway is littered with animals who couldn't make a decision.
Yeah.
It's called roadkill. You either cross the road or stay on your side of the road. There's going to be danger. It's danger that you won't get to your destination and you'll die on your side of the road, or the danger is crossing the highway.
Yeah.
But you don't fucking flip out and freaking panic in the middle of crossing the road.
Yeah.
You make a decision and go. And then the repercussions of your decisions will be whatever happens, right? But you can either stay on your side or go. And I always just thought about that. It's just like, yo, you got to make a decision. But with so much information, people are trying to find the easy way to do everything, and they don't realize that the thing that stands true to the test of time is work will always be the deciding factor. So if you want to find an easier way to do the work, or a way that eliminates the work, that's what everybody's looking for now. How can I be successful without putting in the work?
For real, bro. That's the thing that kills me.
It's not going to work. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. How can I get strong without doing the work? I'll take this pill. Like a common one that I think is, let's make it easy for everybody to understand. Steroids.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You got someone who's not in shape. They see this dude in the gym who's fucking jacked, and they like, I bet he's on steroids. And then I'm thinking, you're judging him because you think less of yourself. Do you know if you take steroids, it does nothing unless you push the actual limits of your fucking body? So you're looking at him like, ooh, like he's doing this so he can be all extra big. I'm like, do you know the extra work he has to put in? The steroids don't make him big. The work still had to be done. He found a cheat code to gaining that size and that mass and lifting that weight and being a stronger power lifter and bodybuilder in this. You're just mad that you don't have the work ethic that this is really insecurity you're shooting in your face, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about combat athletes. Don't do steroids, combat athletes. I'm talking about for the people that do use it. Like, when I see people who are out of shape talking shit about them, like, oh yeah, that's steroids. I'm like, how about you just do 100 push-ups and 100 squats, right? Like, that won't get you the body you're looking for. That motherfucker did 1,000. He gonna do 1,000 tomorrow because he's already pushing his body to the limit and wants to take it to the extra limit. But people think they're gonna find a way to eliminate the need to do the work.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're never going to be successful not doing the work. And even if you find a mentor or someone who can help show you the way, you still got to do the work. I got a 20-time UFC vet in my corner. Does that make me a UFC vet? No. He provides knowledge and lets me know ways to go over hurdles. But I still got to embark on my own journey. I still got to climb up the mountain. He's just there telling me, hey, I took that route. There's a lot of snakes in that route.
Yeah.
You can get through it, but you'll lose a lot along the way. And the possibility is you might not get to where you want to go.
Yeah.
Because a lot of poison down that road.
Yeah.
I know because I got snake bites, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, cool, I cannot go there, but it doesn't mean that my path is going to be the paved one. That's not my path. My path is me making my own path. It's like, cool, but I've been in that direction, bro. You might not want to go.
Yeah. That's the crazy thing too, is that like, especially nowadays, everybody wants to take, well, I won't say everybody, but so many people,
the majority.
yeah, they want to take the easiest way to success possible. And like a book that I read, Justice and Equality by Hugo Bedeau, he talks about how part of the necessity for the sense of inequality is that it's the stoicism factor. And like he referenced Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson went through a lot of shit growing up.
Hell.
And he had to put in that work to get that success. But that's part of the love-hate relationship with your story, because in order for you to be able to have that success through the hard work, you have to go through the trials and tribulations and the suffering to be able to get there.
People want strength and want to be these almighty versions of themselves, but don't want to go through the trials and tribulations. Where the fuck does that make sense? Like, when have you gotten strong just sitting on the couch? You don't. I always go reference things back to fitness and food and health and things, because this is something that anyone can understand. Not everybody might not understand the technical aspect of fighting or this, or I don't understand the technical aspect of shooting fucking podcasts. Like, you know, like,
I don't know.
right? But I can guarantee that there's a struggle point that I'm just like, oh yeah, I don't want to do this shit. I just pay somebody else. Right? You can't pay somebody to make you stronger.
Yeah.
You got to get the fuck up and you got to do the work. And that's kind of this weird paradox, is like people, and it's simply because the day and age we're in now is attention, quote, I'm going to put quote unquote, equals value. Because attention now gets you paid.
Yeah.
So the better it looks, the more attention you get. And literally it's like a dopamine hit. And then for those who are savvy enough to monetize that attention, it's like a 10 to 10x dopamine hit. I look good, people are worshiping me, I'm doing this, and I'm get to make a living off of this, so let me ass shot and let me, super flex. And then a lot of people are trying to imitate that because they see that makes money and gets attention, and they know that's the value now. That's how you make it in society now. So they imitate that, and their version is 100 times worse. And they ain't putting in the work, and they're not going through the trials and tribulations. You want to be strong, you want to be noticed, you want all this shit that you think is valuable without the trials and tribulations of actually getting there. And like you said, Mike Tyson's story is he went through hell as a kid. He went through hell as a fighter early in his career. Then when he got to the quote unquote top and was like a superstar, this is before the media age. He's known all around the world. Yeah. This is before internet shit. Like, this is before internet was like how you got known. He was known around the world.
Being a badass motherfucker.
The pinnacle. And that hell that he went through, he thought he made it, and then that ended up being the hell.
Yeah.
And then he had this massive fall off, and then that was the hell. And then we all look at Mike Tyson now as this dude, not even like in an idolized way, but the words that come out of his mouth is godly now. Like, you hear some of the stuff he says, and it's like a higher power is speaking through this man. But then you realize this man has been through hell. He's like 56, 57, or almost 60. He's been through hell probably 50 years of his fucking life. So he's telling you his trials of walking through hell. Yeah. And I had that breakthrough one time in a training camp. I yelled out about, like, mental like breakthroughs and training epiphanies because I'm putting myself through hell. It's chosen hell. In order to get the best version of myself, I got to break myself down mentally and physically and spiritually to become that diamond. I was a diamond in the rough, but in the training camp, I'm cutting and polishing and shaving, so everything hurts until that one time I get to shine on stage for a possible 15 or 25 minutes. Yeah. So I'm going through that process of cutting and just grinding, and I was like, everybody, like, what if to get to heaven you got to go through hell? Like, people want to ride the rainbow to heaven, but like nobody wants to take the valley, that all the mud and everything. They don't like. That's the way to get to heaven. It's like, it's not hell's this way and heaven's this way. It's like heaven is there, and if you really think you earned a spot there, you're gonna have to earn your spot there.
Oh yeah. It's
not like, well, I did this good thing, like. That's if you believe in religion, and that's how I feel. That I ain't nobody. I don't know shit. I ain't write no books. I don't preach any religious words, but I'm saying, like, I just think it's funny that the way to succeed in life and everything is through failure, and then we want to get things without failing. Right? Like, it's that paradox. Like, it's so weird. I was like, how do we live like this? And I question myself in a lot of things I do, but I'm just like,
no, yeah,
the majority. Like, that's what the thought process is.
And that's the crazy thing too with is that, like, so like dipping in philosophy in that aspect is that how can we really understand what is good without evil? And if all there is good, then we lose the value of it. If all there is evil, we lose the value of it. And so it's the yin and yang balance of each of them. So like there's this alternate version of the story of Atlas or the city of Atlantis where the city was pure, it was good, everyone was happy, had everything they needed for years and years and years. But over time, they started to lose value of the nature of good, and they became corrupted in of itself.
Because they've never seen anything but good, so they thought that that's just the way it is.
Exactly.
And they don't have to work for it anymore.
Yeah.
Welcome to 2023.
Exactly. And like, do you remember the video game Dante's Inferno?
I don't remember the video game, but it's crazy. Literature and English were my worst subjects in high school. I fucking hated it. But that's the one of the required reading things that we did in our literature portion that I remember. I was like, yo, this story is insane.
The Divine Comedy?
Yeah, the Dante's Inferno where he's like, has to go through the different levels of hell. Is that the one where he goes through the different levels of hell, right? Yeah. It's like different. It's like, oh, these are for the false prophets. This ones are for the gluttony. This for and he's going through this, and it's basically the 7 deadly sins. Basically, is what it is.
And then paradise is at the center.
Yes, I'm just like, that story stuck with me. I can't tell you any other literature. I did English lit and British lit in high school. I don't remember shit, man. I don't remember shit. And I remember Dante's Inferno. I read it once, and I said, man, that's something I need to go back and read again, because now I'm not 15, 16, 17. Like, I'm 31, and I have different life experience, and everything that I, like, go through this experience is like, is that? And I'm just like, I always go back to that. Like, it was funny because they always talk about hell being the opposite of heaven, right?
Yeah.
So everybody thinks of like hell as this fiery place. And I don't remember if it was in that or if it was in another piece of literature we wrote. And it was like, if hell is the opposite of heaven and heaven is enlightened, then hell would be a cold place.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be on fire. Can you imagine the absence of life, the absence of heat?
And just be void.
It'd be a void of all of that, all of the light. And I was like, when they say hell's frozen over, hell is ice. I was just but this is my 16-year-old brain, like, just, but I think you need that. You, like I said, the human race turned rock into Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
And you think they did it by just, no, like that going internal, I would say going internal is where you'll find all the answers.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's why I have so much respect for for you guys as fighters, because it's the epitome of stoicism where so much of our society is lacking now, because so many people want to take the shortcuts. They're not willing to go through those trials and tribulations. And you as a fighter, you literally have to put yourself through hell day in and day out. Whether it's the weight cut, having to literally cut out all your personal life and just to focus on the weight cut, and then just actually step into the cage, fight, compete, be willing to risk your life for that glory. Like, that's why I have so much respect for you guys.
And that's the biggest part of the fight. People's, like, first thing they go, people are so afraid of physical pain. And I have this note that I wrote to myself that I have in my bedroom. And the worst pain, it's called What If. And the worst pain that I've ever felt has been mental pain.
Mm-hmm.
I've had, let's just go down the list of injuries. I've had 2 car accidents and 2 back surgeries, 2 broken hands. I had a neck injury that I thought I was like, it's the only one where I questioned never fighting MMA again.
Mm-hmm.
It was that bad.
Wow.
It was that bad. I was like, I think I'm fucking done. I was like, and this was prior to my first UFC Fight Pass fight. This happened 3 or 4 months before that. I wasn't even ready for that fight. I said, fuck it, there's an opportunity. I just got back to training. I couldn't even train the way I wanted to. I was holding pads for teammates and drilling with no live training.
Bruh.
That's a whole other story in this one. But I had the neck injury, partially torn LCL, partially torn UCL. Thank God for the partial tears, because the full tear I would have had to have Tommy John surgery.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, but I got an MRI and it was still hanging on by a little bit. So, it wasn't. But yeah, partially torn LCL, meniscus. I don't even talk about ankle and foot shit from just kickboxing. I said 2 broken hands, the neck. I got 3 permanent scars on my face. First Muay Thai fight, first UFC Fight Pass fight, the last fight. All that. And everybody's, oh man, that you guys are crazy. And I'm like, that pales in comparison to like the mental pain that I felt at times, of the pressure I put on myself, anxiety, depression, like these things that everyone's fighting. This is the crazy part. Everyone's going through it, but everyone thinks they're alone. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
You're going through your own things that you probably, I don't know, but everybody's probably been in some form of anxiety or depression in their life and hasn't put their finger on it or known what it is or known what the feeling is or felt some deep level of insecurity or fear and whatever. And that pain hurt more than all the fucking injuries I named. And those hurt. I've had nerve pain from my back prior to my back surgeries because of the car accidents, and nerve pain is probably some of the most physical pain I've ever been in my life. I fucked my hip socket up in one training. I tore my groin in the fight. Separated AC joint. I forgot about my amateur career. Separated AC joint 4 weeks prior to one of the biggest amateur fights in my career. Just like you just go down the list, and I'm like, all that shit hurt. But you know what I realized? Like, you snap a bone, you break a bone. The snap doesn't hurt. The healing process hurts.
Yeah.
I've broken this hand twice. When it broke, boom, broke right then and there. I didn't feel an immediate like, oh my God, it hurt.
Yeah.
It's the 8 weeks my hands are in a cast, a tiny bump. That when it's healing is when it hurts. And that's the process that we go through as human beings.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, when this massive thing that happens in your life, call it trauma, tragedy, whatever. Someone passes, you have this, some really traumatic event happens in your life. It hurts. But your healing process of every day you reflecting on that trauma, you trying to get over that trauma, or when you are in that space and something's about to happen again, that trauma presents itself because you're like, I felt this before. It's like that mental anguish and like pain, that shit is what really hurts, because it's a slow, agonizing death. It's not a quick break. It's like me saying, hey, just snap my arm real quick, or let me just put some pressure right here until it breaks. It's like, no! Like, snap it. It's over. And like, the way to defeat a lot of anxiety and depression is by taking action.
Yep.
I love what like Jocko Willink said. He said, I never seen a depressed person do burpees. You can't be depressed when you're doing burpees. You're like 20 burpees and you're trying to catch your breath. Your heart rate is on 1,000. You're not thinking about depressed. You just want to breathe.
Right. That's what I love too about like all this. Like I have a speech impediment. I've always been super introverted. So even the idea of being behind camera has always been like, fuck. Got those nerves, anxiety.
And look what all the shit you're doing now. You overcome that by attacking it. You're fighting it. You're doing exactly what fighters do. All fighters, bro, feel like they're worthless, they're insecure, all these crazy things. And some of the best fighters feel that way the most.
Yeah.
Think of Mike Tyson. He was like, oh, I thought I was nothing. You mean the guy that was one of the most feared men on the planet thought like he was shit? But that's why he had to tell himself, I'm a god, I'm a this, I'm a that, because he was trying to fill that void.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I relate to so much what you were saying before in our last interview. Like, you know, it's your greatest fear is, or I'll probably butcher this, my apologies, but like your greatest fear is that being average, mediocre, you want to be great.
That drives me to do something every day.
Mm-hmm.
I hate that. Like, I'm like, that is legit a fear of mine. I'm like, yo, there's 7 billion people on this planet, and probably 6.5 billion of them are literally just going with the crowd, doing whatever. I could literally throw a ball and just hit an average person. I don't ever want to be that.
Yeah.
Ever.
You want to stand out from the crowd.
I want to stand out by being me. I don't want to stand out in the crowd by being more of what the crowd is.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why, like, one of the other, like, the versions that people say about hell is that hell is also seeing what you could have been.
Oh,
you know, that's why I can't stand the what ifs. Like, it's my greatest fear is that, like, I'd rather do everything that I can now to make my best version. And even if I completely and utterly fail, I'm okay with that. But I'd rather not look back 30 years from now and be like, fuck, I wish we had done that.
Yeah.
That regret, that's a killer right there.
Like, you know, it's crazy. Like, you know, like people have that old, like, if you could go back and change anything, you know, what would it be? And I'm like, man, I know it sounds cliche, or it sounds like you almost sound high and mighty when you say, you know, I would change nothing because I like the man that I am today. And I realized, like, no, it's not high and mighty. I think about the progress that I made now. And if I knew what I knew now back then, it means I would probably have to go through 10 times as much suffering to understand these things. And I'm like, I wouldn't change anything. I've had relationships that I love people that I don't even talk to.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's a hard thing to like do. It's like, man, I have family members and friends that like, man, if I don't feel like I've had family members and friends that like, you know, I don't feel like we are healthy for each other's relationship.
Mm-hmm.
That's the pain of cutting someone off is nothing like the pain you feel after years and years of like, man, I really love this person, but you know, and I'm like, I've done that to, you know, family and friends and people. I'm like, yo, we're not our relationship for each other is not healthy. This is not healthy, and I don't say, oh, I regret this. I could have fixed this because it would have been something else. I was like, you go back and change
it
what
happens no matter what.
Yeah, things are gonna happen. There's no like that's me now trying to find a way to be the current me without going through the pain, and it doesn't work. So he's like, oh, I want to change this when I was 12, 13, or when I was 15, 17, or when I was 23 and I did this and I should have stayed in college. I should have stayed with this person. I was like, why? For a feeling? When your feelings lie to you, you wanted to do that, and now you might not have the life experience you have now. You might not have this now. You might not be as aware. You might be less self-aware because you don't know what the fuck you were doing, and because you felt good, you would have kept doing it.
Yeah.
This person gave you a feeling. This school gave you a feeling. This job gave you a feeling. This money gave you a feeling. What is that feeling filling up that you aren't filling up? And then that's where like the stoicism and philosophy and religion provides either faith or belief or self-awareness or values that you can fill yourself, that you don't have to seek externally, because we're all seeking stuff externally that we're missing internally.
Yeah.
Validation, notoriety, value. But that's the thing is, it's not the material stuff. It's what those things provide.
Yeah.
Like, I won't sell out for money. I like money not for what society thinks it is. I like money for what I feel I can make it do for me. I'm like, hey, I don't make a lot of money, but I own my time. So I own the most valuable resource on the planet. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to Thailand this year. Change my life. But next year, I'm like, cool. I'm going to the UK. I'm doing this. Hey, when I fight and I do this, I'm going to put this aside so I can go make groundwork in Arizona. I want to do this. And I'm like, I like what the money can do for me. I'm using the money. Money's not using me. So there's a value on it, but it's not the value that society puts on it.
Yeah.
I tell people that my value lies in the relationships and the network that I have. I'm like, we didn't have a relationship until you reached out. And I was like, all right, cool. Then we'll link up at the next fight or this. And then I'm like, well, shit, let's come down. Let's like build on this relationship. Yeah. And I'm like, this is the value. Like, the value is the connections that you make with other people, how you can help them and how they can help people. And it's like, we're all being used, but that's good. That means you're useful. Oh, this motherfucker's using me all the time. It's like, yeah, because you're a useful motherfucker. Like, you want to be useless, then you will really feel like how depressed you think. You thought you was depressed before, but now you mean there's 7 billion people on the planet and no one has a use for you. God damn, that's gotta hurt. Like, so like, I'm like, yo, be grateful that you can be used, and then find a way you can be used to the benefit of yourself and others. Yeah. So maybe use yourself. I said I have all kind of trauma and demons in my head, and when I'm training, I use the motherfuckers.
Oh yeah.
Because negative energy and positive energy is still energy. You got to find a way to use it.
Yeah, and if you could focalize it into one single source and use it to create a positive outlook, regardless if it's a positive or negative, that's what tells all right there.
I always loved math at school because it made sense. I was like, math and science were my favorite subjects because I was a very curious kid. And I'm like, one of the things is absolute values. The absolute value of any number, negative or positive, is the number itself. Meaning, if 0's here, and negative 9 and positive 9 is this way, and negative 9 is that way, how many spaces does it take to get to 9, regardless if it's negative or positive? 9.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't care if it's a plus 9 or a minus 9, the absolute value of negative 9 or positive 9 is 9. So a lot of the times we're looking at, oh, I don't feel good, or I feel bad. Who gives a fuck? You feel good? Do it good. You feel bad? Do it with the bad feeling. Just do it. But at the end of the day, the absolute value is just do it. Yeah. At the end of the day, Nike got the best slogan on the planet, bro. Like,
just do it.
Just do it. All right? It's just like, at the end of the day, you just do it. I don't feel like working out. Okay. Are you going to get benefit from it? Yeah, then just do it. Oh, I really feel like working out. Okay, just do it. Like, you just do it, and everything else will attend, like, just in itself, work itself out. But, like, yeah, like, that's really, I feel like we complicate things, man. Simplicity is key. Of like, I don't remember, I've read so many books, but I don't remember who said it, but it was like, there's genius in simplicity.
That's why I feel like all this shit that goes on, especially in today's era, it's because we've overcomplicated it. Like, there's,
to say the least.
Yeah, like how, like, there was a professor I interviewed one time, Craig Cologne, and we were talking about, like, just like the waves of how society functions, and he's talking about how it's like a multi-dimensional method. But I personally feel like, to an extent, it's only that way because we make it that way. When in fact, everything operates almost like a spectrum, where there's good, there's evil, where there's yin, there's yang, where there's ups, there are downs, and the ebb and the flow, if we, depending on perspective, we simplify it, can be a simple two-dimensional aspect that we just see the ups and downs of it. And it literally applies in every scenario. Like, I always say that my pain is my greatest ally, because that low gave me the reason to go up.
I said, like I said, I have most of my, like, epiphanies in training camps, and I made a post on my story, and I was like, I want to give a shout out to all my demons because they allowed me to become the angel that I strive to be. I wouldn't be able to put all this positive information out if it wasn't for the hell that I went through or the demons that I'm fighting. And then I had another training camp where I was like, we need to accept that our demons are as much a part of us as our angels are. Where it was like, I'm fighting my demons. And yeah, you're going to fight them to the end of your life because you need to realize that they are you. They're not a separate entity. Well, no, I'm not my demons, but when you're doing great, you're your angel, right? You are the one, right? How fucking egotistical of you to say you're fighting demons that aren't a part of you, but then take the credit when it's the good.
Mm-hmm.
That's fucking backwards.
Yeah.
If you're good when you're good, you're fucking bad when you're bad. And you need to understand that your demons are just as much a part of you as your angels. There is no left without right, no up without down, no good without evil. Like, that's why I said there's no this or that. You just are. You just are. You're being.
Mm-hmm.
You're being. And you can be good or be bad. But you're being. You're alive. And you can just be there in the middle and never do anything. You be neutral, which is worse than anything.
Yeah.
Maybe not worse than anything, but like pretty bad. As far as it takes no effort to do anything.
And there's no risk to it.
No risk.
That's just sitting there.
That's my thoughts about being, mediocre. It's like, even the person that's all the way on the bad or the evil side of the spectrum, they have the most to improve. So they'll probably improve at a faster rate than the person who's kind of in the middle because they have so much ground to catch up on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then the person who's all the way on that side of the scale, they have to do 10 times as much work just to improve 1%. It's like Usain Bolt said, I trained 4 years to run 9 seconds.
Yeah. That's the, like, it blows my mind, like, all the shit that goes on in that aspect, because unless, like, in regards to, like, struggle, unless you've truly had a sense of struggle, people don't necessarily fully grasp the value of it.
Yeah.
Because they just see the surface level things and think, oh, he's already there just because he's there, but you don't see everything behind the scenes of what you've gone through.
Yeah.
Like in like Anglo-Saxon history, like Beowulf, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight.
Yeah.
They didn't believe that there was an afterlife, so the way that they would be remembered is by doing great deeds, by living an epic story that could be remembered and passed on
forever.
Years to come.
Yeah. It's like your mark on. But think about that. That goes back into the deep fear of dying.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to die and be forgotten.
Yeah.
But think about that. You want to live such an amazing life that after you die, you want people to talk about you. That's a little bit egotistical. Think about that, right?
Yeah.
But is that what you're living for? Is that why you're living? No, I'm just living and I want to live and do great things just so people can remember me when I'm gone.
Yeah.
Or maybe in your memory when you're gone, it'll have an effect on people and cause them to change. So you can still have that without it being like, I'm gonna be remembered to the end of days. Like, for why? Why do you want them to remember you? Is it for you that who won't even know it because you're dead? Or is it that the memory of you will affect change long after your last breath is taken here? And you ever listen? You listen to Jay-Z?
Yeah, every so often.
There's a song called Forever Young.
Okay.
That's what that song is about. He said, I want to be forever young. And he was like, I want to be forever young. He's like, as the story gets passed down to his son's ears, it'll get passed down like years over years, like from his sons to his son's sons to his sons. So the story of this artist is going to be lived on forever through his music. It's going to be passed down to his son's ears, and then he says younger gets younger every year.
Yep.
Years. So like he did like a triple entendre. It's like, hey, I'm gonna pass it down to my son. My son is young and he's gonna have sons and he's gonna pass it down to his sons. And my story is young and it's gonna get passed down. So it's gonna get younger every year.
Yeah.
So it's like this weird thing of like you live on through the stories. Your death lives on through the stories of how you live. And and I'm big on that. I'm like, yo, just if you become a master of dying, then you'll live every single day, like it's your last. And that's what I'm doing. I'm like, if I die tomorrow, I told Harrison this yesterday in our podcast. I was like, if I was going to die on, let's call it Saturday, next Saturday, I wouldn't change my schedule. I would still teach Muay Thai class on Monday and Wednesday. I would still teach the kids' classes on Tuesday and Thursday. I would still lift every one of those days in the morning. I would still do my MMA training in the morning. I would still do Muay Thai class Friday night. And I would just do what I'm already doing. And I would give every ounce of life that I have to it. Because I love what I do. Even when I don't feel like doing it, or I don't feel like teaching the kids classes, or feel like working out, I know that the work is more important than how I feel.
Yeah.
And I'm going to die anyway.
Might as well make the life.
Might as well. What I'm going to say, oh man, you know what? I might say, okay, hit up my family, say, let's have a big family dinner. Yeah. You know, let's like reminisce or something. But my schedule's not going to change. And if I can't have that dinner with my family, they'll understand because they know how I think. Hey, I love you guys. This is my last days on earth. But I got to teach these kids. I got to roast these motherfuckers in Muay Thai. I got to get a good sparring session with my favorite trainer partner. It's like, I didn't say, oh, fuck, I got to quit my job and do that thing that I always wanted to do because I already taken so much risk in my life that every day I try to master death. And like he who masters death, like lives every second of his life. I'm not just alive. I'm living and I'm thriving. And I have my gratitude journal. And every so often in the morning I write, you know, especially when I'm really sore from training, I put like, you know, a minimum every morning 3 things, but sometimes it's 5, sometimes it's 10, sometimes it's a whole fucking page. I'll just hit like a domino effect and really realize what I'm grateful for. And I start every morning like that. And most of the time during training camps and I'm sore, I always am thankful for pain and struggle because I realize like I got to where I'm at because of it. And this pain is a sign that I'm alive. And if I'm alive, I'm A-okay.
Yeah.
Pain. And that's, I think Eric Thomas is like, pain can last for a minute or an hour or a day, but eventually it'll subside. Quitting, it'll last forever.
Yep.
And I just like, every time I'm feeling pain, I'm hurting, I'm this, I'm that. I'm like, if I really hurt, I'm like, man, I'm grateful for this pain. Because I know when I feel good, when I got no bumps, nicks, bruises, injuries, and I'm not sore, like going into fight week, I tell people, and I feel like I could run through a brick fucking wall. And they're like, how you feel? I'm like, I can run through a brick fucking wall. And then I cut weight, so for a day or two I'm like, ugh. And when I rehydrate, I'm like, give me 2 brick walls. Oh, bro.
That's why I love, so I'll say a book I'd recommend you to read is The Virtue of Selfishness by Ayn Rand, because she kind of pointed out that we have this misunderstanding of what selfishness is, because like the textbook definition is to one's own interest. Now, we kind of like think that when we think of selfish, that's something that's negative, but it's actually not always a negative. There's negative selfishness and positive selfishness. The negative side is that it does bad onto others. It has a bad ripple effect. But the good part, like, for example, with your career, impact you have on your kids. So when you go through the Muay Thai training, put them through hell, you're sending a positive ripple effect through that selfishness for them to be the best version of themselves and to do the same thing onto others.
Yeah. You know, thank you for that. I had no idea that there were 2 definitions of selfishness. And it's crazy because I operated as such, but I didn't know the like textbook verb, that part of it. And I would always sum it up in my head. It's like, yo, I'm being selfish for very selfless reasons. I want to be the best version of myself so I can be better for other people. But that takes me to have a full cup of water before I can let everybody else drink.
Yeah.
If I'm just completely empty, then like I'm taking from other people's cup of water. And sometimes you'll be empty and you'll need to get refilled from everyone else. But I'm like, I don't want a small cup. I want like a fucking gallon tap. And every time somebody needs some, thirsty or they need hydration, like maybe you're not just thirsty. Maybe this is for the people who are dehydrated. If you're thirsty, find a way.
Yeah.
You know, like I know you put some work in, but for those who are like about to pass out and need it, boom, here's like, I'm on tap, bro. Moon's on tap. What do you need? You know, right?
Exactly.
But like, you have to be selfish, and you have to be able to fill your own cup at times. And there are times where it's really hard for me to fill. I have extremely high standards for myself.
That's how I am.
As just a man in general, like, and not just like in fighting. I'm talking about just being a man. I have very high standards for myself, and I've gone through times, and I still go through times where it's hard to look in the mirror, and I feel like I'm never doing enough. And everyone's like, "Oh, you're doing great," but I'm like, it doesn't matter if you tell me I'm doing great. I have to believe I'm doing great.
Yeah, it's the greater the ambitions, the greater the burden. Because when you set yourself a standard so high, or when you set the goal so high, like where you're saying, like, if they start at -9, they have to go all the way to +9. That's
18 phases, bro.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, you feel more compelled to fill that gap. Like, that's how I am too. Like, one of my lifelong goals is to learn everything, but then my other goal is to change the world.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a pretty tall glass to fill, and I have to be selfish to an extent to be the best version of myself, and also put myself through those trials to reach that greater ambition.
Well, changing the world starts with changing yourself. Think about that. 7 billion people on the planet. I keep saying it. Don't even say 7 billion. If 3 billion had that attitude of, man, I got to be a little bit selfish so I can help affect change in other. Bruh, it would be no pollution, it wouldn't be hunger, it wouldn't be this, that, and the third. But I love to play devil's advocate. But then what would be the countering force that forces humanity to continue to grow and prosper? Because like you said, the whole Atlanta story, then we live in a utopia. And now we're in a utopia so long that when it crashes, it's gonna crash and burn. So it goes like, I call it the Thanos effect, right? Like, Thanos was like, you guys are using up all the resources of doing this. You guys are destroying the universe. And either one thing's gonna happen. You're gonna destroy the universe, or me, I'm gonna destroy you guys. And so the universe can live on. So species of everybody can live on. Now everybody's not gonna die, but I'll take half of you.
Yeah.
Right? And oh my God, that's so bad. And I'm thinking like, he got a point. Like, he got a point. Like, if everything was all gravy, then like, there's no resistance, and like, people feel entitled in it. So I always go back and forth with this. Like, it has to be this resistance in order to progress. Now, this is the point I am in my life where I'm like, I don't want all the external factors. I understand that I'll run into those external factors that are going to cause me pain and force me to grow, but I choose to give myself pain and myself struggle. That way, when those external factors come, they're like, it's like throwing a rock at a mountain. It's like, cool. And people might take this like, and like, oh, that's not suffering. I'm like, look, I choose to get an ice bath every morning. It fucking sucks for 3 minutes every fucking day. I chose that suffering for 3 minutes because I know it has benefits to help me sleep, my body recover, that, and the third. And it's uncomfortable for 3 fucking minutes. That's not suffering. Yeah, then I go and train and break down my body because I know if I continue to break down my body, I'll continue to build it up. So I'll be healthier in the long term. Cool. And I choose that suffering. And I choose to be baptized by the fire of martial arts and sparring and Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu and MMA. And I choose these things. So when life presents obstacles, like,
it's a breeze.
It's like, okay, well, I choose my own suffering anyway. So if I just chose, I would say people who like retire and they like, oh man, I'm going to go. I said, bro, you're going to be 3 weeks into soaking up the sun on the beach in a day full of Mai Tais before you're depressed. Because now you have no purpose. You're just enjoying the comforts of life.
Yeah.
You retired. So now you're kicked up on the beach with some honey pot and 20 Mai Tais deep. And now you're just like, now what's next? You're just going to do that till the day you die?
Yeah.
Because you worked for 60 years? Fuck that. That sounds depressing. Like, I want to enjoy that. I want to enjoy the fruits of my labor, but you got to plant the tree. You got to plant the seed. The seed's got to grow. It's got to struggle. It's got to have seasons. Like leaves got to die. Branches got to fall. You got to repot, resoil, grow. You got to go through this process, and everything in life goes through this process. So why do we think any differently?
Yeah.
And if you know that you're going to go through hell, you're one step closer to getting through it. Because all you got to do is start walking.
Yeah.
You
gotta cross the highway.
You gotta cross the highway, right? So make the decision. And I'm like, okay, shit. Life is gonna be littered with heavens and hells and goods and evils and this and that. And I'm gonna do my best internally to make myself as strong as possible. Not to not go through these things, but so strong that when I'm presented with these things, that I am a suitable challenger for whatever life throws at me.
Yeah, like it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in war.
Warrior ain't know how it is. Facts.
Exactly. Hey, it's like we've been dabbling so much in philosophy. I didn't even get the chance to talk to you about, you're going to be coming back this summer as well. Free title.
Dude, I was so excited. I was like, every podcast is different. Right. Like me and you always talking about philosophy and like the way of living and life and all these things. Like you said, you have this broad spectrum, but like it's very simple. Like this very graph of like how you live your life. No matter if you're a fighter or this or that. It's like, hey, there are very simple truths of life, and they all go that way. But yeah, I'm coming back in December for title shot. I had my February fight. I had my August fight, and they both went well. First round finish in February, second round finish in August, and now we are fighting for the first UFL Bantamweight title here in Arizona, back at Legacy Park in Mesa. And I'm excited for the opportunity more than anything.
Yeah. How does that make you feel, especially, with this kind of promotion just starting up? You get to have the opportunity to fight for one of their first belts, and you get to do it in a pretty big crowd, pretty big scene, really stiff.
Even though the promotion might be newer, they're one of the top promotions in the United States for sure.
Yeah.
Like, if you say, okay, the United States, there are a ton of promotions. This is what people don't know. Every state that has MMA has 2 or 3 local promotions. Why haven't any of them become big national promotions yet?
Yeah.
Why hasn't any of those become feeders for Bellator and UFC? It's like, yeah, it's crazy. There are 3 shows in, and you could say top 4 promotions. They might be the 4th as far as notoriety. You got UFC, Bellator, PFL, UFL. But in 4 shows, they are already out ranking all the other local national shows in the US. It's like, come on, it's not a small promotion. It's only it might not be as well known a promotion, but it's not a small promotion. You've been to the shows.
Yeah.
Fucking Rampage Jackson, Ben Henderson, Jared Cannonier, guys just walking around. You're like, these guys were UFC and Bellator champs and WEC champs, and they're bringing their guys that they're coached, so the level of fighting is like on the same level as UFC and Bellator. You're like, bro, these, just because you don't know the name doesn't mean they're not fucking making waves. And after 3 shows, I'm like, I am a visionary, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be one of the biggest promotions in the US. They're offering healthcare, bigger purses. They're taking care of the fighters, and it's growing so fast. And I'm like, just from the first show to the 3rd show, I was like, damn, they're already improving stuff. And the first show was great, and just it's looking better, it's feeling better, it's a big stage. And I just say all that to say this is like, I'm super excited about the opportunity to have a chance to fight for the first. I was like, you can't take that away from anyone. Like, if you're the first at doing something, yeah, somebody could be the next person to do it, but you're the first. So you don't have an opportunity to fight for the first UFL Bantamweight title. And that can be cemented in the UFL's history. You got to think of it like when the UFC had their first heavyweight title. And I don't remember who it was, but I remember all the way back to Randy Couture and Ken Shamrock and all these guys. It's like, can you imagine? You look back now, those guys, the first UFC champions. You know how
it's cemented there forever.
Exactly. That's the paved road. It's so what I can do what I can do, or the opportunity I have to do, can help pave the road for fighters behind me or next to me or on the same road that want to do things and to do it the right way. And that's what I try to do with my brand. And I show everybody when I come to fights, I was like, you can expect me to be entertained because that's just kind of who I am. I'm a little ham in front of the camera. I like it, but like, it doesn't distract me and it doesn't like make me waver or like, you know, wilt. I'm just like, oh man, okay, the lights, the camera, the action shit. It's time to show everybody what I've been working on in the dark for years and years and years. And I'm like, well, you could do it by being yourself. You don't have to act out of character and be a fucking hoodlum and fucking disrespect people and countries and religions and all this just to get attention. Like, you don't have to do that. You can be genuinely yourself. I'm always professional. Like, be on time, be early, you know? Don't just be on time, be early, be there, be present, and be valuable.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you can talk, I talk my shit without, you know, disrespecting anyone. I'm like, I have really good sound bites. I haven't mentioned nobody's mama. I ain't mentioned nobody's country. I ain't mentioned nobody's religion. I just like, but I'm just being me. And I'm like, I don't have to put on for that. So you just be 100% genuinely be you. And I believe that this path that I'm on will also help fighters and people realize that you could just be 100% and genuinely who you are. And don't act like who you are, if that makes sense. Like, sometimes we're like, oh man, people like, man, back when I was in high school, when I was in college, like this, I used to be like this. And then they try and act like a previous version of themselves.
Yeah. And
imposter syndrome.
Exactly. And it's like that, I don't want to say bluntly say fakeness, but it lacks the authenticity.
Yeah. You know how crazy it is to feel like you have to act like yourself? Like, think about that. You're going to act like anybody, but then it's like double awkward because you're like, oh man, I used to be like that. It's like, no, be who you are right now in this current moment. Who I am when I first started fighting, and what drove me to become a better fighter, and people call it motivation, but I would say motivated me or just driving forces and fuel in my career early is not the same fuel that was when I first turned pro. It's not the same fuel now.
Yeah.
My principles are the same. I just use a different source of fuel.
Yeah.
And, you know, that fuel's F3. I think you know. But, yeah, so it's just like, be you. And be who you are in the moment you are. And that's why I said feelings a lot to you, because sometimes you feel bad, so you feel like you got to be bad. I'm not feeling good, so I got to put on this space. It's like, no, like, feel what you feel, but be who you genuinely feel like you have to be. And like, you know, when I go do my job out there and I fight, I'm like, man, it's a representation of who I am. So when you see me on the interview, you see me on my walkout, you see the Instagram posts, you see any podcast, any media stuff, it's like I'm representing me and my moral values and who I am at its core. You can like it or you don't have to like it.
Yeah.
And like, I don't live my life for people who like and don't like me. Like, I like me. And sometimes I don't like me. So I can't fault you for not liking me. Because I don't even like me. So I'm just like, just be you. Like, everybody goes through ups, downs, depressions, and anxiety, and this, and extreme confidence, and then lows, and then fear. And like, we all go through this shit, especially fighters. And so it's like, you know, I love what the UFL is doing with the fighters. I love working with them and being a part of what they're doing. Not just I work for them, you know, being a part of what they're doing. I have ownership in the company, which is wild to even say. So I want to go above and beyond and give the extra mile. And on top of that is like, number one thing is I'm a fighter first. So all that time, attention, and energy goes to my training first. Training myself, my family, and what I do for a living. And like the UFL helps provide so I can do all that more. So I'm like, hey, I want to help pave the way for fighters coming up, realize like, yo, I'm not telling you your values have to be the same as my values, but when you know what your values are, you know who you are, you can be you and benefit from it. So just do that. And I'm not saying you're going to benefit right away. It's all the benefits are going to be monetary, but do you.
Yeah.
I'm like, if I went bankrupt right now, my networks and my connections and my relationships with people I have an army of people who'll be willing to help me get back on my feet. It's because of the amount of people I help get back on their feet. And I never ask for anything in return. I don't do it. So if that happens, then I get this. Yeah. Then it's not truly given.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, the good part. You're like, hey, I gave you this, and then you put your hand back out. It's like, why does that hand? Well, I'm just gonna keep it here just in case I ever need it. What? Who the fuck does that? Yeah. It's like, no, I'm giving you this just because this is part of who I am. I want to see you succeed. And I'm like, if I fell flat on my face and everything went up into a shitstorm, the people that support me and my relationships and my connections, I believe that there's an army of people that I'll be like, yo, we got to get you back. Mm-hmm. And that effect means more than what people see in the lights and in the clunker and the soon to be title.
Exactly. That's also the part of the good selfishness, because it's not like, I forget who the philosopher was, but he said that there's no such thing as selflessness, because everything has the selfish intention. So for you, the fact that you've helped so many people, you helped those people because you felt it fit your moral compass to help them, and it also made you feel good. Yeah. So you had your own personal gratification out of helping others.
Exactly.
And it's having you're not expecting anything in return, but it's still gonna have that effect later on for if things do fall flat. Yeah. And you have people there.
If you're there, cool. But I'm not expecting anyone to be there. Because in my darkest times, even when people were like, man, what's going on, man? How can I help? I'm like, there's nothing you can do, because I have to make the decision to help myself. Yeah. Otherwise, I feel like I'm taking advantage. And that's just who I am as a man. And I'm like, yo, that's something I learned from my mom. I had like a breakdown. I got into really pretty bad with someone that was like a brother to me. And I was playing the victim of my own life and didn't even know it. I'm like, oh man, I was dating this girl, I helped her out. She fucking took all the shit, cheated on me. Then I had this guy like a brother, he fucking stole this shit, he did that. I moved all these people into my house because they didn't have a place to stay, and he stole my rent. And I was just like unknowingly playing the victim. I'm like, why is everybody taking advantage of me? Why are everybody taking advantage of me? And I was like, I got into a physical altercation, and the next day, like, I was just like not in a good spot mentally. I'm at work, and I couldn't even be at work. My manager saw me, and I'm like between rage and crying. Damn. So like, and he was like, "What's wrong?" I was like, "I can't be here. I can't be here right now." And like, I just went back and called my mom, and she was just like, "I'm so tired of being a good person. So tired of being a good person. Like, everybody's taking advantage of you." She was like, you can't, that's not something you can help. So Amun is my middle name. Khairuddin is my first name. It's my legal name. And it means goodness in the way of judgment. Oh. And my mom is like, good is not something you do. Good is who you are. That's why I gave you that name. And I was just like, fuck. You have a duty that's higher than just you. And it's not just, something you do. It's a part of who you are. Mm-hmm. So it's like, that's who you are. Yeah. Good isn't something you do. Good is who you are.
Yeah. And if you feel you have the capacity for greatness, then it's your obligation to do so.
Exactly. Yeah. Right? And it's like, in a weird way, it's like being selfish or selfless. It's still like you get gratification off of it. Like, back to what you're saying, it's like, it's always a revolving door. It's always a revolving door. There's always a dichotomy. There's always a balance. There's always a scale. And anytime there's too much on one, you just know when there is a correction, it's going to be massive on the other. Mm-hmm. And that's why, like, I know it's a weird thing, but guys who fight on the high level who have this massive wins, right after their massive wins, I don't know if you know, but a lot of them feel depressed.
Yeah, that's right, like what Izzy was saying.
So I had a whole conversation with Lathan about this, like, years before I even heard that same podcast that Izzy was talking about. And then when he heard it, he sent it to me, and I was like, I thought this was just me. Like, why after this extreme high? It's because, and then I started listening to Andrew Huberman and all this stuff. It's like, oh, you have this massive adrenaline rush, this dopamine surge, everything's on fucking 1,000 times 10. And then as you're coming down so fast that it feels like you're plummeting, you're falling, and then nothing feels good. You like, just had the biggest win of your life. And now the week after, you're sitting around like, the fuck is going on? Like, what am I doing? Like, it's working out. Doesn't feel good. This doesn't this. So, you know, my cure is goal setting and suffering.
Mm-hmm.
I know it sounds crazy, but like, I got to go feel something. I got to go do something. I got to do something that hurts.
Mm-hmm.
Because most people would rather feel pain than nothing at all. Because that emptiness hurts here more than it hurts like physically.
Yeah.
So, and I don't mean like, I got to go hurt myself. I mean like putting a goal out there gives me something to work towards. And when I put something to work towards, then I realize that feelings don't have nothing to do with what I want to acquire. So it doesn't matter if I'm feeling low or if I'm feeling high, the work has to get done.
Mm-hmm.
And they asked Tyson Fury how he got out of his Great Depression. He said, I set a goal and it gave me something to work towards.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost impossible to be depressed when you're moving. And it goes back to like, why is moving so important? Because depressed is a lower state.
Mm-hmm.
And when you start moving, you increase you increase the energy level and the state that you're functioning in, vibration, right? You're increasing the vibration of everything in your body, your heart rate, muscles, your brain, and it's like,
it's tell yourself you're alive.
You're alive. I told my friend, I said, you know what the most valuable, let's take air out of this, but the most valuable resource on the planet, water.
Mm-hmm.
The one type of water you can't drink is stagnant water. Why? Because stagnant water holds bacteria and it causes disease. So think about that. The one thing necessary to life, you can't even consume it because it's been sitting still. So imagine what's happening to your body that's 60% water when you're fucking standing still. Because most people in depressed state, they start to go into their hole. They stop doing much. Then they get in their head and they start thinking. And their body's moving less. And people think that the brain is separate from the body, and the brain is a part of the body. Blood flow to the brain is super important. So the less you're moving around, the more time you're thinking, the more stagnant you're getting.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens to stagnant people? Disease.
Yep.
Shit starts locking up. You don't feel like doing things. Objects in motion stay in motion.
Yeah. You literally blew my mind by saying that, because I actually wrote an allegory once called The River of Good and Evil.
Mm-hmm.
And I explained how, like, the current of the river is time, the water that makes up the river is good, and the impurities that exist is evil.
Mm-hmm.
We currently live in a society where we're trying to extract the water from it, and the river being infinite, we can't control since we are finite entities.
Yeah.
So we have to take the water from the river. Well, what happens is that it loses its current, loses time, and it gets stagnant.
Mm-hmm.
So, like with the nature of good and evil, so longer that water stays stagnant, the more corrupted and polluted it becomes.
More things can settle in there.
Yeah.
It's like, that's the shit that's in the water that you don't want. But when water's moving and it's hitting rocks, it's like gaining minerals and all these things. And it's also like, that is a natural filtration. The rocks are holding the bad things back.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're stuck in the wild, most creeks and rivers you can drink out of because they're moving water.
Yeah.
Like most of them, you know. I don't want any Nat Geo people out there like, well, the microbes and the microbial. Look. You wouldn't give a fuck if you was out there for 7 days and you ain't had no water. You could be drinking all the microbes, all right? You could be drinking out of some stagnant water. And anything to live for just a little bit longer.
Exactly.
It's like everything is circumstantial. That stagnant water, you know, can cause death. But if you've been 7 days without water, you might say, this might keep me just alive long enough to go get some medicine. Like, whatever the case may be. But it's like, if emotion is the key to life, it's like, yo, when you're in a depressed state, you got to get up, you got to get moving, you got to get your body moving, because your body moving will then affect, change on your brain.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing that I'm just learning. I'm like, man, people try to say, oh, mind and body. The mind is a part of the body. And when you get your body moving and the blood gets to flow to your brain, and you got water and you got oxygen, like you got the basic necessities of life. And I don't mean this in a bad way, but then depression is your choice. You chose. Maybe you didn't choose to be depressed, but you chose to stay depressed.
Mm-hmm.
And people don't want to hear that, because then it makes them accountable. Like, I don't remember what anime it was, but he said, There's no shame in being weak. The shame is in staying weak. I don't remember
that.
But and like I can't even say that without getting goosebumps because everybody like I get a lot of praise for my physicality and my strength and things like that. And I never had this shit. I was never the strongest, never the fastest. I was never naturally gifted as an athlete. I was fucking I am obsessed. When I was younger, I was one of the slowest kids. So I would put on heavy boots and run because I thought, if I run with the heavy boots, it'll make me stronger. Because when I take them off, I'm going to be lighter. And then I wanted to play football, but I was homeschooled at a young age when we moved from Philly to Georgia because my mom was a teacher.
Okay.
So when we moved out of the city, which had really bad schools, and we moved down to Georgia, started like a homeschool community. And we don't have sports at homeschool, but I heard you could still play sports through this Board of Education. And I tried to, play football when we was in middle school and stuff. And the coach was just like, no, you gotta come to school. That ain't a thing. I don't give a fuck about the Board of Education shit. Let's go watch football practices and I will homeschool it. I want to do that. So what I do, I went home, set up 40-yard dashes. I got a tee with a football. And I'm out there practicing for every position. Like I'm on an NFL scouting combine at like 10 years old. I'm out there just doing sprints like a fucking crazy kid. And I'm like, I gotta be stronger. Now I'll do some push-ups. Then I'm like, well, what if you're gonna be a kicker? And I'll just like, see how far you can kick the ball. Boom, let's see how far you can throw the ball. This is what I just like, cool. Like, oh, I got 2 or 3 people. Let's run some routes. Let's catch. Let's do that. It's just like, I just got obsessed with, I wanted to be on the football team, this or that. Then I started playing soccer. And then I was like, well, let me get a soccer ball. And I'm watching soccer videos, looking at fucking all the like Pele and I always was just attracted to greatness and no matter what form it was in. And then I just hammered away and it's crazy. Now after staying physically fit and doing strength and conditioning and all this stuff, 15 years later, I'm a pretty decent athlete. And guess what you got to do to keep it? Keep doing it. So I'm like, I get a lot of praise, about, oh man, he's strong, he's athletic, he's this, he's that. That's a huge part of what benefits him in MMA. But it's not like I had that and then I worked on my skill. I didn't have that and I was working on that while I'm working on my skill. So I had neither. Yeah. I had an empty cup.
Yeah, and you had to fill it.
And I filled it. And I was just like, and I'm filling it. And then when I feel like that gets full, I just get a bigger cup, and that's the goal, is just keep getting bigger. So now when it's getting more full, I'm like, you're like, hey, man, I want to get in shape. I'm like, oh, here's some water. Here, you work out 4 days a week, do this, da-da-da-da. Cool, how do you know how to do that? Hire me for coaching, bro. Like, now I can use it to benefit me, but then also benefit you.
Yeah.
And it kind of goes back into that thing.
That's why I consider it a genuine privilege to be a part of this current generation of fighters rising up. Because, like me and James, we talk about all the time, like, originally, when I started joining the MMA community, I had the kind of idea of going for the big league straight directly. Yeah. And that's it. But I was like, you know what? What would be better than to focus on them and then wait for everybody else to come up? Why not start with everybody that's just starting the amateur, just starting their pro, or just the beginning of stages to hitting that level? Grow with them to lay the new foundation, tabula rasa.
So the foundation is everything. Me and my mom opened her first business. It was called Nurturing Minds because she was a teacher. So I've done 20 plus years of teaching, because of like personal reasons. She got pulled out of the school. My grandmother's health was, shaky. So she had to go help my grandmother out a lot. Yeah. And so when she wasn't able to teach, I was like, what do you want to do? She's like, I want to teach. I was like, really? Like, as retired, she's like, I'm going to teach to the day that I die. And I'm like, that sounds like me with martial arts. And so we opened up a business called Nurturing Minds, and one of the things that we talked about is like the foundational skills on how she taught students. There were so many kids scholastically who were going into middle and high school who didn't have the foundational basics of basic sentence structure or basic math rules. And it's like, how can you go into adding letters in math when you can't even add numbers correctly, right? Your multiplication and division. So as a teacher, she specialized in figuring out how students learned or what gaps they were missing, and then filling that so they can progress. So she had a lot of like traction. We always say like one of the models, like, you can't build a grand a grand structure on gravel or sand. There are no skyscrapers built on gravel.
Yeah.
Just as high as you go up, you got to go down. With deep concrete pillars, you got to have a deep base. Think of a massive oak tree, as big as it is. The roots are deep and spread, and they're hundreds of feet going in different directions.
Yeah.
Planting that tree, that 100-foot tree, into the soil. It's like you got to make that foundation big, and it's got to be a wide foundation. And way to do that is not starting at the top of the pyramid. You start at the bottom and work your way up. Hey, how about that? The only grand foundation built on sand is a fucking pyramid. All right, wide ass base because it's so shaky.
Exactly.
But even the stones are fucking massive, right? It's like that's where you start. And I think you got the right idea. It's like the people who want to be at that top, on the top of the pyramid, that top block, all have to go through that foundation to get there. So if you start the foundation, as you start to go forward, the same people who are serious about being at the top, when you rise, they rise. It's like, with it, the rising tide raises all shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. In yoga, they have a saying, we rise by lifting others. Mm-hmm. And it's like, that's always the key to success, right? Exactly. So I think you have the right formula, and it's all about consistency, intensity, and volume. How often you're doing it, how much energy you're giving it, and and stay consistent over time. And no matter what the problem is, you'll get the solutions if you do those three things. Stay consistent, give it proper intensity and focus, and do it a lot. And then you're bound to succeed.
Exactly. That's why I love the fact, like, how the saying keeps on going. This is a passion-driven sport, because you have to have the passion to build the foundation, to put in all that work, to see the fruits of your labors and see what it could bring.
Yeah. That's definitely, I would agree with that. I think a lot of people get hung up on the whole passion thing, and like we get so hung up on like trying to feel that. I want to feel my passion, my this. You got to realize that at times you could be working in your passion and purpose and it don't feel good, but you still got to work.
Yeah.
But if you are aware that it's not all a fucking utopia in fucking sugar and roses, and it's all the beautiful things got to go through treacherous shit. It's like, think of a rose, all the thorns that are on the stem before you can even get to that beautiful one. Mm-hmm. It's like, that's your life, bro.
Exactly. See, I knew this is why it was a great idea to bring on the show, because it's like that. Ever since we linked up and like found out you read, I read, and then how we get into philosophy, it's just like, we had to do an interview at some point.
Yeah. I'm glad. It's like it's still. I would consider this more, philosophy and mindset. Not just like about fighting, but fight is what I do for a living. So that'll always like run the parallel of why I think the way I'm thinking, because of what I'm currently doing. Mm-hmm. And I was fighting before I was fighting, but I was fighting myself and the job that I had, and myself and what others thought about me, and myself and my trials and tribulations I was going through. But now I'm still fighting myself, but the parallel, how I continue, I'm not discovering who I am. I'm creating it. I tell people, stop trying to find what's right for you. You can spend your whole entire life trying to search. I want to search for what my passion is. Fucking create it. Mm-hmm. And when you realize that it's not always sunshine and rainbows, then sometimes it'll feel good and feel bad. But don't say, oh, this is my passion, and then when it's not going your way and you don't feel good, oh, well, my passion is something else. It's like, so, bitch, you are just uncommitted.
I love it. So before I let you go, I always ask this question. If you could have a specific type of impact on the youth, on the kids in the community, what type of impact or like lasting message do you want to leave for everybody?
I think we kind of just talked about it earlier. It's like being genuinely yourself, not letting external factors determine, I hate these word feel, but what you feel and truly think of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
All right, because like I said, I don't believe in. I believe in feelings, but your feelings can lie to you.
Yeah.
But don't let the external fire of the world, because the world is a very, world's a dark and crude place, but it's also a very light and great place. Like, we live in the best society, time right now where you have the most privilege, you have the knowledge of the world in your hands. But there will be a storm. There's a storm inside you at all times. It's up to you to let the chaos either be internal or let the chaos be external. And if you're the eye of the hurricane, that means there's craziness going on around you, but you're at peace. But if you're on the outside of that hurricane, it's just fucking chaotic. You're getting hit by shit. The wind's blowing. You're like, you have no control. So as long as you have control over yourself and the choices you make, then you're bound to live a great life. If you strive for perfection and you do things internally and morally right, regardless of what it is. I'm not going to tell you, hey, you should do this, because what I say, everybody doesn't have the same road to heaven, right? So be true to yourself, work hard. If there's a field or anything you want to do, I don't care if it's from art, from a martial arts or artist standpoint, or work or career wise, work fucking hard and consistently at it day and night. And then after you failed and made all the fucking pitfalls and you feel like it's not working for you, work twice as hard. And then find someone in that field to help show you the way. Because you get places in life by helping others out. Whatever you want more of, give it. You want you want to feel better about yourself, make other people feel better about themselves. Right? And whatever you want more of, give it. And at my lowest and one of my most depressed times, my best friend told me that. He was like, yo, you want more of this, give it away. He said, every time you told me you did great things, you told me about how much you gave away. And right now, you're so focused on you and you can't see how you're going to get out of this hole. Give shit away. I started just giving away everything, giving away my time, my energy, giving away money, giving away products. I'm giving away me. And it is crazy. It just started falling in. And I'm like, fuck. The love. All about love.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful, man.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I love that.
That's it.
Nice. And so before we get out of here, do you want to give a special shout out?
I just want to give a special shout out to my team, my family, my team that's not able to be here right now. You know, Lathan Lawson, my head coach and best friend, Cole Miller, Miller Martial Arts, Rush MMA, all my whole goon squad at Rush MMA. A lot of you guys see what I do, but you don't see all the dragons I get to train with in the dungeon, from fucking Lindsey Jones, Chase Boutwell, Quentin Culpepper, Homer Maygrome, like Emery, aka Emerson, just like TJ Spires, like everybody that we get to train with there. Jesse James Wallace, who's my manager, but also fights, and we get into full fights. We don't negotiate, we just fight. But like I am a product of all those around me, and then the UFL gives me a platform to where I get to just amplify who I am and let the world know what I've been working on in the dark for many, many years. And all I have been working on is me. I thought I was working on other things, but really it was working on me. And the saying goes, you know, I was foolish today, and I was foolish. You know, I woke up today and wanted to change the world. I'm wise today. I woke up, so I decided to change myself, and that's how you start. You know, and when I decided to change or create who I wanted to be, it's crazy. Everybody around me gets affected by it, and the world becomes a better place, one person at a time.
There, I love that. Well, hey, I appreciate you coming on. That's a privilege.
Oh yeah, for sure. It was an honor. We gotta do this again.
One of these days, I'll have to try to fly out to Georgia and we do it.
Hey, if you come to Georgia, let me know. You stay with me. I got an extra bedroom, and you can just stay with me. You can like get all the content from all other fighters in the Georgia area. Get a different perspective, because this is my perspective on fighting. Maybe other fighters have different driving factors. We got a whole fight team. We got 2 whole gyms. In one gym is like an academy, and one gym is like a dungeon. So like, it's like it's literally the perfect balance. I swear, one gym has AC, one gym is all brick and 10,000 square feet, and it's literally like an oven. And we get all our training in on the wrestling mat. So it's literally the perfect balance for me. I'm like, all right, well, we know, like, we do all the skill, we do technical work in both, but we do a lot of skill technical work, like breakdown film studies in one gym, and then we go work out the problems live on each other in the other gym. So like, you come down to Georgia, bro, you ain't gotta worry about nothing. Just come out to Warner Robins, and you can stay with me, and you'll have some fun.
Hey, I appreciate that. I really do.
For sure.
Awesome. Well, hey, thank you guys so much for watching. This is Josh Said What, the podcast that will change this world. See you in the next one.
Yeah.